So again, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Well, I was asked to present short, more like a really overview from the regulatory point of view, policy, what we can expect from upcoming packaging and packaging waste regulation, which I also said this is hot topic this year, but it will be hot topic, I think, for the next 10 years, especially for the industry. Just 1 second. Okay. Well, just super brief introduction. So I represent ZeroWasteEurope, and I belong to the team based in the office in Brussels. But in fact, ZeroWasteEurope is really the network of European communities, experts, organizations, and we all work towards basically waste prevention. We engage in the policymaker, both on the EU and national levels. We have a dedicated program mentoring cities towards best practices in zero waste. We work a lot in different networks of NGOs, local groups, and communities. And because packaging is the sector that is responsible for producing enormous amount of waste, is also very much in our interest. And I just, because the main also interests of myself, but also big focus on the PPWR is also on the food packaging. So just very clearly the overview of more general policy agenda about the food packaging, because of course a lot of legislations, regulations, discussion going now on started earlier, about a couple of years ago, and they are somehow linked to each other. So let's say that the really first big European strategy in 2018, European Plastic Strategy, decided that we actually have to do something about plastic packaging. We should move more to reusable or more recyclable, and also address the substances, the hazardous substances that basically we know that harbor, for example, recycling. In 2019, the Europe introduced Single-Use Plastic Directive, which kind of very much influenced the especially beverage sector. So that's the first time when we introduced also this mandatory recycled content in the PET beverage bottles. A lot of things happened in 2020. That was actually also the consequence of 2019 elections in Europe, more like really green-minded, let's say, politicians and Green Deal. So we have 2020, the European Commission launched so-called Circular Economy Action Plan. And again, it was very clear that we have to move to more safe recycling into food contact materials of plastic, not only of PET. The Farm from Farm to Fork strategy has been published, which promised to revise the food contact materials legislation, also to improve food safety and public health. 2020, European Commission also published Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, it's setting really like the vision of Europe around safety of consumers, environmental policies. So those important also for the food packaging, that we have to focus on non-toxic material cycles, protection against most harmful chemicals. At that year also, the Commission started officially the revision of food contact materials regulation. In 2022, also a bit also of the follow-up of those commitments made before, like for example from Circular Economy Action Plan. So the European Commission published a new regulation on recycled. This is the one. On the recycling of plastic into food contact materials regulation. So that's where in the food contact materials, that's the regulation that's setting the rules basically to to secure the safety of plastic recycled into food packaging. Because earlier, also the same year, the 5 years ago evaluation of food contact materials regulation has been completed, and there's a clear conclusion has been made that this regulation is not really working so well. Now we are 2024. We expect the adoption of packaging and packaging waste regulation really soon. So that will happen in the coming weeks, but we really should expect it still this year. There are some other ongoing changes around food contact materials, which also influences definitely the food packaging. So there will be upcoming ban of bisphenols and the new amendment to regulation of plastic. And then, of course, there is still the question when the revision of food contact materials regulation, so important actually, the really overarching regulation that is securing the safety of food packaging, whether it will be revised. The most recent, communication from European Commission saying that at least proposal should be ready at the beginning of 2027. But then let's focus really on those packaging and packaging waste regulation. So we have actually this year, it will be like 30 years when we have in the European Union the directive regulating the packaging and packaging waste. But so far, actually focus were really on waste management and recycling. So 2 years ago, when the European Commission published the proposal of PPWR, it was clear that for the first time we are really moving more towards prevention measures, which of course I think that should be actually really the direction to go. And importantly, because we are converting the directive into the regulation, that is also important from the implementation and enforcement point of view, because that basically means that once adopted, this law will directly apply to the national level. There will be more harmonization between all the rules will apply to all the member states equally. And so theoretically, things should happen more smoothly, at least from the legal point of view. Well, the text of PPWR is really big. It's a long document with many different rules, and of course, I'm not really planning to discuss them here and show in all the details. One of the very important the important features is that actually we have really like those overall waste reduction targets for 2030, 2035, and 2040. So that means that we will need to reduce really significantly the volume of the waste. And those prevention measures that I mentioned, when you focus on measures that will focus on packaging solutions that will force more refill, reuse, and also more recycling packaging into the packaging. So I will just not really read everything here, but just go more directly. So just briefly, like an overview of those prevention measures. So reuse and refill, actually what has been at the end adopted in the final text is much less ambitious than proposed by European Commission originally in 2022. There was a lot of discussions and lobbying. So the main, actually, if you see still there are of course that mandatory targets for refill and use for the beverage sector, a bit less than preliminary assumed for all takeaway food and beverage sector. And there is also some more ambitious targets for transport and so-called group packaging. As here on the right side of the screen, you see also the exemptions. So yeah, that's mainly for certain beverage products. And also what is very, let's say, clear, remarkable, that a lot of those these measures actually apply to the plastic, and the cardboard, for example, sector has been excluded. Then when you're looking at the minimum recycled content in plastic packaging, so well, we have those more coming back, the content, the mandatory recycled content for the beverage sector. So it's again PET, but we also have new targets for all other polymers in contact sensitive packaging, so food packaging, which, well, let's say, which will grow from 10% by 2030 to yes, to 65% by 2040. So that's, you see, that's the plan is to become much more ambitious. And just the last maybe part I would like to then address in this presentation, the requirements for substances in packaging, because as I mentioned, of course, also both reuse, refill, and recycling, that's all changing a bit our, let's say, way of repackaging. Of course, also will require that all the safety requirements have to be fulfilled. The problem existing in past, and the still existing problem in the packaging and the food packaging, is still the presence of different so-called substances of concern. We know that they are hampering the recycling, but obviously they also have direct impact on also of the consumers. So there is a number also of different requirements that mainly, let's say, in the beginning they will focus on like a more mapping of those substances of concern. There was quite little transparency in all of the supply chain. So by 2026, the Commission, together with European Chemicals Agency, should produce really like a comprehensive report, which substance of concern can be found in which packaging. But basically, the PPWR assumes that those chemicals that will be assessed as negatively affecting the reuse and recycling will be restricted directly under PPWR, while those chemicals that are present but their affect rather directly human health and environment should follow the restrictions under REACH. That's well, actually, in this very part, under Article 5, the PPWR doesn't also really specifically mention food contact materials regulation, but obviously for food packaging, that will be the regulation that will be dealing with this human health risks. And one thing, apart from regulating the levels of lead, cadmium, mercury, and hexavalent chromium, so those four metals that are there from the very beginning of the directive, the new regulation is introducing the restriction of intentional use of PFAS in food packaging. And just somehow it doesn't really work on my mouse today so good. Well, and yeah, I didn't want to take too much time. I think more or less I'm still within the time I planned to present. I'm looking forward to the presentation, the next presentation, which will focus more on actually how much still technical knowledge, scientific knowledge, how much new information has to be created to really ensure that ensure successful implementation of this regulation. Because I didn't mention it, but actually there is a lot of things still will be regulated by the so-called secondary legislation. So there is plan to really set up more defined rules through different regulations that would follow adoption of PPWR. Here on the slide, yeah, just to mention that actually we have a lot of different briefings and different publications all around the packaging. So that's normally kind of cross cut between the scientific evidence and the policy work. And that would be all from me. Thank you.